All right, so you all know we love obsessions on this show. We're about to learn about an obsession that might be one of the weirdest ones we've ever talked about. We're going to talk to a guy who is obsessed with, among other things, trying to bring animal species that went extinct years ago back to life for a lot of reasons. But this guy has already helped to bring back the dire wolf. He's really working hard on the woolly mammoth now and has taken some really important steps. Is this, you might wonder, like Jurassic Park coming to life in reality? Well, I kind of wondered the same thing. I'm going to ask him about that. I'm going to ask him about why he does this. His name is Ben Lamm. He's a billionaire tech entrepreneur. He is founder of Colossal Biosciences. That's his company. And he's just an uber curious guy, fascinating to talk to. So let's listen. Thank you. We'll behave, I promise. Ben, thanks for doing this. It's great to meet you.
No, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's great to meet.
I have some obsessions that I wanted to ask you about, but I thought it'd be fun to just give you the floor because you told us ahead of time you were thinking about what obsessions you wanted to talk about. So
yeah, I feel like I'd say like 99% of every call I am on, like I was at the dentist yesterday and the first thing they wanted to ask about was the mammoth, right? So I spend a lot of my time talking about mammoths, right? Even though we're working on a lot more here at Colossal. So I spend a lot of time on it. And I am obsessed with the mammoth, but I think George and Beth and others are obsessed with it. But, I feel like I think I'm one of those people that's just like weirdly curious and interested, right? And I just, I don't
do your line of work without being a little
exactly
curious,
right. It's like,
I feel like
exactly like, or being like, interested in things. And I always like to learn new things. I'm one of those very open-minded people where I think I can live with the mystery that we may not know everything, right? But it's like, there's just so much cool shit out there, right? And so like, I would say from a practical perspective, I'm very obsessed with longevity. I'm very, very focused on health and wellness, right? And so that's something that I'm very passionate about and I'm obsessed with. But then it's all the weird stuff that like, I'll find myself down some rabbit hole on aliens or dinosaurs or the pyramids are always like crazy to me. And I've been fortunate enough to travel and see a lot of these different older sites in the world. And like you can read stuff and see stuff, but like when you go somewhere and you're standing there and you're like in Peru and there's something that's like 4 tons and it's like, oh, it was quarried 1,000 miles away. It's weird. It's just weird. And so I've gone down a bunch of these crazy rabbit holes because I just find all of it intellectually interesting.
I love that. Okay, before we move on, I do need to ask you about the dentist because are you literally like this doctor is doing work on your teeth and asking you about woolly mammoths?
I'm obsessed with longevity. So I try to, like, I meet with every functional health group, functional body health group every, once a year. And then like things like, you go to the dentist twice a year. And I just try to keep track of it and do everything like you should do, right?
Yeah, 6 months. And, I'm with you.
I'm on track on that. Yep. I try all of the things, right? I do 4 blood tests a year. I do function health once a year and go crazy because it's just the greatest test. So I do all that stuff, right? But
function health. What is function health and why am I not doing it yet?
Oh, you need to do it. So I went through this whole journey of like designing what my typical, people will do the annual blood test and they'll test like,
that's what I do. I'm like an annual physical kind of guy.
No, you can't do that.
Not enough.
Do that.
Okay.
No, not enough. So I do the annual physical. I do the annual executive physical and check myself in for a day. But then I do 4 times a year, I do my blood test, which is a myriad of different tests that I like to test and track. And then as I change medications or supplements, I like to look at changes over time and an immediacy and then over a longer period. But then the function health, but I was doing all that, right? Because I believe fundamentally that you have to be the CEO. There's 2 things that you have to be the CEO of in your life, your health and your finances. No, you can have doctors and money guys and lawyers, but like at the end of the day, like you have to take responsibility for those things. No one's gonna do it for you.
You got to make the appointment. You got to manage your health insurance.
You got to manage it. You got to do the work, right?
You
got to, and it's annoying, but you just got to do it, right? And so, and so I was at the. So first on function health. So it's a very comprehensive blood test, right? So it's kind of like what I was doing on steroids, where it's like, my quarterly blood test, which is very all encompassing. It's everything, and they have tests for microplastics. They've got tests for all the different types of proteins, in terms of like, how your heart health is going outside of your like
microplastics, like they're in my
like
blood,
in your blood. Yeah,
which is not a good thing, I'm assuming.
No. I started a whole company around this. It's like we are ingesting a credit card size. This is disgusting. We are actually ingesting a credit card size of microplastics, and people will say it's a month or a day, but go take the test and see for yourself.
Where am I ingesting plastic? I mean, like is this not good? What I'm drinking here, this one bottle of water?
It's everything. It's everything, right? It's everything. It's in our food supplies. It's in our water supplies. There are some people that you do get some of it through skin contact even, but it's about 90% is through the gut, through consumption.
All right, so that's an obsession. Functional health, 4 blood tests a year, going to the dentist.
And then the dentist loves the mammoth, right?
Ask you about the mammoth, yeah.
Yeah, so I always get you can't escape it.
Yeah,
like we're pretty committed to this mammoth thing.
Well, I wanna guide this. I want to get to the mammoth, but I don't want to be like your dentist who brings it up like as soon as I meet you. So I want to kind of like I want to get to.
I'm an open book. We can talk about whatever
animals that you're trying to bring out of extinction, but you mentioned dinosaurs as an obsession. What is that about?
I think. I'm not a geneticist. I'm not a biologist, right? But I think I saw like a lot of people. I was obsessed with dinosaurs and all this stuff as a kid. But then, I saw Jurassic Park, when it first came out, and of course it's exciting. We are not making dinosaurs here. We are not Jurassic Park here. But we're going to
get back to that though, because I do want to get back to the Jurassic Park and how it relates or doesn't relate to your line of work.
We can do all that. But dinosaurs are amazing, right? And and then this goes into that concept I said of like, it's okay. Like I'm okay with the mystery, right? And some people aren't, and I still want to pursue knowledge, but I'm okay with the mystery. Like I don't think that we know everything, or even probably should know everything. But there's like just
that would
crazy
be shitty
stuff.
If we knew everything. I mean,
I know, but people feel
boring.
there's lots of humans in this world that think that they're the smartest people they've ever met.
Yes.
And I'm not one of them. I'm the dumbest person I know. But I'm interestingly curious about things. I like to learn things. But so there's crazy stuff about obviously T-Rex, Lizard King of the dinosaurs. Everyone knows the T-Rex, and it's pretty iconic. Like when you think of dinosaurs, a lot of times T-Rex, which was mostly an American dinosaur,
but ruled our planet, right? I mean, is that an exaggeration?
No, ruled our planet. And by the way, there were this is crazy. They only lived to about 30 years. But that we know of.
Oh, that I didn't know. Okay. They died young.
So they lived about 30 years that we know. Their bite was so ridiculously strong that, the strongest bite in history that we know of, they actually had cartilage in part of their jaws because if not, it would shatter their own skull with how strong they bite. I mean, that's
the cartilage broke the force of the bite to protect their...
when they bite, they actually compress their entire jaws compress a little bit, which is crazy, right? Wow. But here's the thing that I find interesting. I think it's the most fascinating. We have discovered less than 100 T-Rexes, yet it's modeled, right, that there were over 2.5 or 3 billion T-Rexes, right? And so,
where are all these fossils?
That's the thing, right? It's not everything is perfectly preserved, right? And so we do all this modeling and says there were probably this many, and I'm not a paleo, I can't tell you how they came up to that 2.5 billion number, but 2.5, 3 billion. But that's a lot of T-Rexes, right? Yeah. Now over the course of millions of years, but still, when you think of the fossil record, and so many people we dealt with this with the dire wolves. So many people will bet their lives on this fossil record. I was like, guys, this is broken. I mean, it's good. It's kind of what we have because we have T-Rexes running around. So we can see this, but fewer than 100 have been found, right? And so I always feel bad when someone comes out and they have a crazy or interesting theory that may not be mainstream and they just get attacked. I don't know if you saw Rogan got attacked by every media outlet when he said, I can see there being dragons. It's like, because they are in all these different categories of people's histories, right? And like, you look at the zodiac and everything's a real animal except the dragon. Like, so it's kind of interesting, right? And then you look at the fossil record and you say, well, wow, there are 2.5 billion T-Rexes. Those are pretty big, so you'd assume, and they were not made of cartilage, so all cartilage. So, but
yeah, they're out there somewhere. They're somewhere.
You would assume that some percentage, more than 100 of them, existed, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of it's fun to think about.
Well, I mean, I think about Rogan and saying like maybe dragons exist. I feel like that's some of your influence over all of us right now. Like just this infectious curiosity, like what could be and why not explore it and why not test the boundaries of our understanding. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I'm curious. It's like, I've always been a believer in aliens, right? And like right now, it's like I'm having to, this is a weird time in the world with like everything that's going on in the war, and there's so much politics on both sides of the aisle when it comes to the media, and but then there's still these moments that are interesting, right? Like there are now our government is showing that there's documented cases of some type of, whether they're craft or not, things in the sky.
Yeah, pilots are seeing them, like round things. Like, I mean, literally,
pilots are seeing them, and that are moving that can traverse like thousands of kilometers within a second, and can jump 50,000, and also can go into water. So there's and by the way, this isn't the old 1990s like handy cam stuff, right? Or
right.
Just like some firsthand account, right? Even though for a lot of history, firsthand account, like the vast majority of what we know on this earth is from firsthand accounts, but I won't argue that case. If you want to look at definitive data, like we have like military sensors that are now identifying and finding anomalous objects. That's just interesting, right? Like, it's interesting. You can't say it's not interesting.
No, this like, if a pilot sees a flying saucer, and I mean, I say flying saucer, they've actually seen things that look like flying saucers.
Now it's like more persistent. It's everywhere.
Right. And it's like either that's some sort of extraterrestrial thing, or if it's not, and our government has proof that it's not, then say why it's not. And if they can't do that, then they're responsible for it. And so they're responsible for putting this weird shit in the air. One or the other, like, I want to understand it. I need to know, I want to know which it is. But it's a mystery, and maybe we just have to live with that.
I had my last business was a satellite business, and satellite software, and mostly focused on defense. And I've done a lot of work in government. We're very transparent. InQtel is an investor in Colossal, and so like so people always think that like maybe I don't know anything more than the general public knows on this topic. But I will tell you, if you look at the complicated geopolitical world that we live in today, it's only going to be exacerbated by AI, deepfakes, the media itself, right? On both sides, not one side or the other, but both sides are going to continue to fuel these fires because of ratings and clickbait and everything. At the end of the day, I believe that if you have a step function in military superiority of that caliber, and you have the energy required to do that, I mean, you've solved, whether it's 0-point energy or fusion, you've solved something insane, right? To be able to even power the abilities around some of these things that are being observed. So if you've done that, well, then you are 1,000 years ahead or more of any other government on the U.S. I don't know if you still play ball in the like UN model of like world governance, right? And so that's why I think it's not ours or anyone else's. Well, it's someone else's. I don't think it's domestic.
I agree with you. All right, I'm going to apologize for acting like your dentist. You know what? I'm not going to ask you about the mammoth for the moment. I'm going to ask you about the dire wolf.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay. So dire wolves, I knew them from Game of Thrones.
But not 90%. That was part of our like decision making. We have this really interesting. I think it's interesting. We have this like everyone's like, what is the checklist you have to bring back a species? And we just don't have that. We have this like weird decision matrix that we sit down in these like group huddle sessions and go through. And one of them is like, what will the educational and kind of like what is this like extra layer of like halo effect or ethereal effect that'll have on it? And the dire wolves, they have a pop culture effect. And I won't say who, because George R. R. Martin is an investor. He did know that they were real. But there are members of the Game of Thrones cast that thought they like when I talked to them about it before launch, they were like, wait, these weren't real? Or these were real? And so it was an educational
people who were in Game of Thrones did not realize that this was like an actual
the vast majority of people thought it was a mythical creature.
They're kind of mythical. I mean, they seem kind of mythical. They give a mythical vibe. I mean, they're white and they're pretty awesome.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome and they're stronger and and we didn't know this until we made them, but they have like this mane. They have like this like almost like lion mane that like goes backwards. That like if you've seen like a Rhodesian Ridgeback, right, in like a dog, where it's got that like they have something like that, only it's much thicker. It's pretty cool.
So cool. And they were Ice Age-ish, right? Roaming around the Earth.
Ice Age. So they were doing the Pleistocene, right? So about 12,000. The best guess is that they went extinct about 12,500 years ago. Which, by the way, a lot of other megafauna went extinct around that. Which is a whole nother. That's that whole like Younger Dryas, Graham Hancock. So all that's interesting too.
Yeah. How did you get into the de-extinction business?
It's completely George Church's fault. When people are like, I don't like what you're doing, I was like,
not my fault. He made me do it. That's the way to.
I had built a handful of companies, mostly software, a little space hardware, but mostly software, and sold them over the years. Precursors to large language models. I missed that by like $100 billion, $800 billion. And we were early. So we built some like precursors to that in conversational intelligence, kind of like invented that category. And then was in gaming for a while. And so always just mostly doing things I found interesting through the lens of software and technology. And I reached out to George because I thought I wanted to go build like, I really like genetics. I think it's fascinating. I think that AI and eventually quantum is going to like accelerate like, I think I had this thesis that we're going to move, that we can use AI and AI co-pilots to essentially help us in laboratory environments where we basically will be able to do accelerated evolution, more editing, more DNA synthesis at the scale that will enable a really interesting world through biology.
And what was George Church up to that got you super excited about meeting?
He's like the father of synthetic biology,
right.
And he's known for all of his read-write technologies. He has obviously talked about the mammoth for a while, but I didn't even call him about the mammoth. I didn't call him and say, let's go make a mammoth. I reached out to him just trying to understand the trends of where he thought synthetic biology, access to compute, AI, eventually quantum, where all this was going to go, and what software. And it's like if you go to a surgeon and you're like your knee hurts, they're like you need surgery. And so right. I was the software guy, so I was like, what software would one go build to build something that's interesting and could like move the industry forward? And so he answered that in like 4 minutes. And then I was like, okay, what else you got going on? And he walked through a bunch of projects and they're doing crazy stuff there. He's got this like food computer concept where he's found this, which I don't know, I may do this with him at some point. I don't have time right now, but it's like they have taken, they found the fastest replicating algae and algae-based life forms. That his goal is he's like, if we can just ensure that we can process it in different ways where it could taste like a burger or taste like bacon or taste like a salad, everyone could have their own like star. His view is like this could be the material that a Star Trek like food processor could use. And so
this could someday like help with food insecurity and
exactly,
yeah,
and it's like it's high protein. It's incredible. And so he, I mean, right now it's disgusting, but it's incredible. What the value's incredible. And so they're working on stuff like that. They're working on things like how do you replace the nucleus of a neuron, and like how do you like do mitochondrial injections into a neuron so that like when your neurons make up the neural net that becomes your brain, and all, memory and all of those connections and how you process data, if they die, could you swap out like the battery in it, and so they're working on crazy stuff. And so I listened to George for like 20 minutes just say the insane world of stuff that he was working on. And then I stopped him and I said, look, if you had one project, okay, like you got a lot of stuff going on. Like, he has 100 people in his lab and all at Harvard. And I was like, if you had one project that you could work on with unlimited capital, and it wasn't, that's a good question. Let me think. It wasn't a, pondering moment for him. He looked straight in the camera. Like, I would work to bring back the mammoth, use those technologies for conservation, and I'd apply those same technologies to human healthcare. Like it was like he's been it's almost like, and I was like, this is insane.
Well, bring back the mammoth is the woolly mammoth we're talking about. Then I want to get to why this could help us with human healthcare and also climate change too, and all this other stuff. But okay, so he gives you this clear, immediate answer.
Yeah, and then the call's over. He has another call. I'm like sitting there and I'm like,
let me just drop that on you and then leave.
Yeah, just like insane cool thing. And I was in my place in Austin, and I was running another company at the time, and I just was Googling George, and it's like the end of like, Signs or Sixth Sense where like everything comes together. Mm-hmm. Like I sat there and I was like, no matter like, and I had research source before I talked to him. I wasn't like completely dumb. Like I looked him up. I knew I was talking to you. I asked for the meeting. But what's crazy is like, I missed a lot of the mammoth talk. But what's crazy is that in everything, whether it was on Colbert or 60 Minutes or whatever, there was this mammoth through line. And you could hear an inflection in his voice when he talked about it. And I was like, this guy is very committed to this. And then I thought, hey, I don't know anything about this and I don't have a background in biology, so I'm perfect.
I'm the guy. I'm the partner. Okay, what is the argument for why it's so important and awesome to make the woolly mammoth no longer extinct?
Yeah, so great question. So a couple of things. One is the pursuit of the mammoth, right? And we'll get to the mammoth, does a couple of things. It builds technologies that are really needed for elephant conservation, because elephant conservation is a majorly underfunded area. And it's something that, all the technologies that we develop, we open source for conservation, right? We also established a $100 billion foundation to help in this too, separately.
Okay, so we're saving elephants is one.
So saving elephants is one.
Okay.
A second one is the technologies when you work on, if you want to bring back a mammoth or any of these species, it's not a point solution. It's a systems model. It's like you have to break down and you have to invent and innovate across a wide spectrum of technologies that are dealing with biology, which is harder to work with in elephants than it is in humans. So many of the technologies that we are developing on the path to the mammoth also have direct applications to human healthcare. Genome engineering, computational analysis, media conditions, IVF, like a lot of things can be impacted based on what we're doing, right? So there was a human good, an animal good, and the human good is also highly monetizable, right? So you could build a business case around it.
But like when it comes to the human, you're learning a ton of shit that could help people who want to get pregnant, cure disease, it's just opening doors that we don't even know yet what.
Exactly. And you, like right now, synthetic biology, being able to engineer and direct life and make these edits and even synthesize life is somewhat capped. Not in a negative way, but it's capped because the researchers have funding to solve X, or they want to get Y drug through clinical trials. So they focus on that. They're not saying, how many edits can I make? How many edits can I make, right? Like they're like, if I'm trying to make a gene therapy with one edit for sickle cell anemia knockout, well then that's their focus. They're not saying, how do I do this 1,000 times at the same time? That's what we're doing, right? And so we're having like a lot of people are taking victory laps about doing 2 or 3 edits, which is awesome, right? And they have about a 40%, 50% efficiency, and probably the high side. We have over a 90% efficiency, and we're doing hundreds of edits.
This is editing DNA, right? I mean, editing
DNA. And so, but that's just one of like 100 things in our kind of end-to-end stack that you have to make work to be able to do things like dire wolves and dodos and mammoths. Okay, so there's the human healthcare. There's also the ecological function. And so here, like, this is a fun thing I've learned about working with scientists is that none of them agree on anything. But it's
a good
fun,
thing, right? I mean, that's
no,
good.
No, but I love it. But what's interesting is I kind of love it because from a conviction level perspective, they're so high and they're so like, but what's interesting is like you'll put two of the top mammoth people in the room and one person will say, if you look at the model and you look at like what studies have done in Russia and others, the reintroduction of cold tolerant megafauna will have this impact to the environment and therefore this impact to other species and climate change. And then if you put like another equally talented person in this field on this thing, they're going to say it will have this impact, but I completely disagree with you because it will not have this impact of carbon. But what's crazy is if you take out the carbon, right? Because we got a lot of shit when we launched because like we were more on the left side of this conversation, but the right side was like, I agree with everything you say except to the exact model to carbon. It's like, okay, well, both sides agree this is good for the environment and it will help recharge that environment, right? And both sides are like, yes. But I don't agree with that person's perspective on that. And I was like, okay, then we'll just say that this is good for the environment for these 10 reasons you guys both agree. It's like seed dispersal, removal of carnivorous trees that are not carbon efficient, increasing through defecation, the grasslands, which has a higher carbon sequestration and albedo effect. So there's a lot of general. So what's
and
interesting
all this
is
positive environment stuff is coming from bringing back species that once were on Earth and are no longer here.
Yes, large. In the case of the mammoth, it's large cold tolerant megafauna, right? And so putting them
that's the
scientific
back word for a woolly mammoth.
Yeah. Well, it depends on who you ask, right? Like, some people will say they're genetically modified Asian elephants with mammoth alleles. It depends. It's eye of the beholder, right?
But you bring them back, and that's a positive change for the environment if we have them.
It's a positive change. And then you have this halo effect, right, of and outside of helping animals in the technologies for human healthcare, is that people are really excited about it, right? And it's like, I feel like we've moved away from like the old school science fair days of like making the volcano and like, like putting in the food coloring and baking soda and watching it erupt and making a disaster, or Bill Nye, right? It's like now, like those days aren't here anymore. We've really politicized science in a lot of ways, and we've separated it. And I think, and by the way, and I had this conversation with the president of MIT. I said, look, you guys did a lot of this yourself, right? And so it's like, but what's interesting is that if you go to a child or a parent that are not a biologist, that didn't get a Princeton PhD, right? And you just go to some random person in middle America, they love science. They love nature. They don't necessarily love all the scientists preaching at them right now, but they love science. So it's like, how do we communicate to them and create a sense of wonder and excitement for science and nature? And that's a general positive thing, I think.
No, I agree. And reading about your work, I mean, I had that sense of wonder and curiosity.
It's just fun,
back.
right?
Okay, so you've not brought back the woolly mammoth yet.
We have not. No, we have no secret mammoths.
But you have a woolly mouse.
We have a woolly mouse. Objectively, the cutest mice on the planet.
They look really cute. I mean, they look like I'm imagining them as little miniature versions of big ass woolly mammoths. But
and so
what are these mice?
So the woolly mice we made, and we did it. So what was miraculous about? I'll tell you why we did it. But what's miraculous about the mice is that we did it in 30 days. At the time, it was
30 days. It took you 30 days to bioengineer woolly mice?
Yeah. Because we have this, which is amazing, because we have a end-to-end platform where I talked about like we have to have all of these things work in concert together to produce life. And so the technical challenges were, we wanted to say there's about 200 million years of genetic divergence between mice and elephants, not even mammoths, just mice and elephants. And so we said, okay, what are the core genes that we've been editing in the Asian elephant cells? We want to test, are the gene expressions creating the physical attributes or phenotypes that we're looking for? Well, there's only a couple ways to do that. You can like test it test it in the lab, which we do. You can make organoids where you can actually grow super Frankenstein-y and amazing. You can grow hair on skin cells, which we've done. So, and that's living, but so weird. You can make a mammoth.
Grow hair on skin cells, like it.
Yeah. Oh, from skin cells. Yeah. Okay. So you basically
I have more questions about that too. Yeah. Okay. Well, imagine you being able to grow hair like on human skin and turn.
Well, that's why we don't do
like
anything.
Chewbacca or something.
That's why we don't do anything with all the technologies that apply to humans. We license those out or spin those out. We don't do that. Okay. We don't do anything directly with humans here because people are going to say, wait, if we came out with a hair product, people would be like, wait a second. Like, where did you get? Like, so we don't want to.
I'm not against it.
We get weird. We get a lot of weird feedback occasionally. So we're gonna try to minimize that.
You're staying focused right now and letting others deal with the human ethics and all of those questions.
Exactly. We'll support it from a technology perspective, but we don't have to have the direct governance on it, right? Okay. Which is, I think, very good. But then you could do the random roll of the dice and see, like, did everything work and make a mammoth, right? But that's 22 months. It's expensive. Elephants are endangered. You should be really thoughtful when you do that last stage. So the other thing is mice are model species. It takes them about 22, 23 days to be born. And so they're model species. And so what was amazing and what I think was incredible from a feats of strength perspective, that people just thought they were cool. And then some people wanted to argue about them. But at the end of the day, I don't think we got enough credit in the fact that, like, they, one, were the most genetically modified multicellular organism made at the time, only to be surpassed by our direwolves, right. Number one. Number two, we delivered all of the edits in one delivery, multiplex editing. And some people gave us feedback so a couple of people that don't like us, they're like, well, other people have made 8 edits in mice. Like, they have, but over like 8 generations. You make one, you have them breed, then you make another. I was like, no, we did it all in one. 100% healthy. All the 38, I think they had 38 pups, all of them were born healthy, and all of them exuded the phenotype or physical attributes that we were hoping for. And what we did is we engineered the mouse equivalent of the mammoth genes that we were editing, and we used our computational analysis tools to give us those targets. So we used our AI systems. They worked. They came out healthy, most importantly, and exactly as predicted, and they did that in 30 days. So
that's extraordinary.
I think the mice are pretty important, but I think it's cool.
It is definitely cool. So direwolves, you've brought back, there are 2 of them that you have.
Three. So we have 2 boys, Primus and Remus, and then we have Khaleesi, so we have a female too.
Okay.
And we're making more.
You're making more. How does one make direwolf? Is there a simple way to describe, like, you have to go find ancient DNA,
you take
right?
ancient DNA, and that
so you're
exists.
Like an archaeologist as well, sort of, or paleontologist. What's the right word?
Most people think of us. They think of the Jurassic Park aspects of the business, the labs, right? But they don't realize that, like, we work with 17 universities across the world, and we fund about 100 postdoctoral students in those labs that are doing research on a lot of ancient DNA. Number one, we also work with museums, and so we've gone to like the secret basements in like the Smithsonian, and like they'll like it's like a movie. They'll pull out something. There's dust on it. You're waiting for like the Indiana Jones soundtrack. And it's like the light gets weird.
Are there are secret basements at the Smithsonian?
I don't know if they're secret, but I mean, if you add secret to basement, it sounds cooler. Okay. But it's their basement. They're definitely basements.
The child still in me wants to go find those basements and look at the fossils.
It's not the catacombs, right? It's not like the catacombs of the Vatican that apparently have like the world secrets that we don't get.
But you've got a network of people who have access to like ancient DNA. This is not.
Yeah, exactly. But then also in the field. So like, I'm on the board of trustees of the Explorers Club, which is a group of incredible women and men that are just exploring different parts of the world. And so some of our, like a lot of our tissues from mammoths actually come from the field, from expeditions out in the field. So there's a fun kind of adventure component to the ancient DNA. With the direwolves, we just took a tooth that had already been sampled that didn't produce great DNA. We want to use our tools, number one. And number two,
one tooth. These 3 animals came from
one tooth and one skull. So we have about a 13,000-year-old tooth and a 73,000-year-old skull.
73,000 years. Okay.
Yeah. And so, but which is great because we had two different samples. The samples, we actually got a good amount of DNA, even given that there's not a lot of direwolf DNA out there. Because most of the samples were found in La Brea tar pit because of heat and acidification. The DNA doesn't exist anymore. So these were found separately, and there's 60,000 years of genetic divergence between those two. So we could really that's a great, it wasn't like 100 years, and they were from two different regions. So what was great about that is that really lets us zero in on the genes and some of the parts of the genome that are fixed, meaning conserved, that don't change, that didn't even change over that. And that's, like our belief, and I think that evolution agrees with this, that like we are not, like what makes us us is not even the sum of our parts, it's the individual parts that are conserved.
Who is giving birth to a newly bioengineered, de-extinct direwolf?
So today we use large wolfhounds. So we use surrogates. So we actually bought the number one cloning company.
So wolfhound is the carrier, the surrogate, and then
the surrogates.
Okay.
And you put in the embryos. And then, but we do have, and this doesn't work yet, right? So it's crazy. This is going to be a fun, insane statement for you. De-extinction is no longer science fiction to me, not because of the direwolves or what we've been able to achieve with the mice. Just I know all the stuff behind the scenes that we're working on, or I know where we are. So de-extinction to me sounds not science fiction. We have a 17-person team working on 3 different artificial womb projects. That still sounds a little science fiction-y because we haven't demonstrated success there yet. But our long-term goal is everything will be grown ex utero in bags.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question as simply as I possibly can. What do you say to people who look at all of this stuff you're doing and say this is all royally fucked up? Like, it is scary, it is breaking ethical boundaries, it's like engineering extinct species and bring them back? Like, how do you answer those?
Well, I'd first say why, because just saying it's fucked up is interesting. It's a position.
It's not a lot of specificity in that.
Yeah, I know, but it's like, why? Do you think it's fucked up because of the ethics? Are you worried about like the animals? Are you worried about can they exist in the ecosystem? You're worried about playing God? Like, so
I'm into it. I'm just how about the playing God? The playing God argument. The people who
we try to have an attitude. We try to be as transparent as we can. We try to collaborate with a lot of people. Some of our biggest haters and skeptics in the early days now work for Colossal. That's kind of fun. Like, I love that.
That's kind of fun.
Well, because I have an attitude. So I think that people that give us negative feedback fall into 2 categories. You have informed critics and uninformed critics, right? Yeah. So you have people that have never really done anything, or they've done very little, and like they're like, my new thing is I'm going to hate Colossal. Like, okay, cool. But that we don't really need to engage you because that's not helpful, right? But if you're an informed critic, right? Like if you're like Beth Shapiro, who wrote, so Beth Shapiro, our chief science officer, number 1 person in ancient DNA, arguably number 1 in the entire world, right? And she wrote a book that says how to clone a mammoth. Spoiler, it ends with you can't. And I was like, she's perfect. And so
you want her in the room.
Well, because she's thought about this, right? And so I met with her, I flew out, met with her, talked to her, made her an advisor. We started talking to her, or before she became an advisor, we're talking to her, and she's like, "Why would you? Beth is amazing. She's also very direct. She's like, why would you? I wrote a book saying you can't do this." And I said, "Well, you can't clone anything without living cells, correct?" And she's like, "Yeah." I was like, "And we don't have living cells, correct?" She's like, "Correct. So you can't clone a mammoth." I was like, "But you could engineer one." And she's like, "You could engineer one." And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "So your book still stands. Academics don't like you to challenge their previous written down words."
Right. That was smart.
That also works. But guess what? You could know the most about this from an ancient DNA perspective. We had George from the editing, and we had this, and then we brought on Andrew Pass from developmental biology. And that kind of triforce makes, I think that allowed us to engineer the system that we need to engineer the animals. And so back to your playing God question, I think we play God every day. We play God when we make the dodo go extinct, or when we overfish our oceans, or when we take cholesterol medication. That's a form of playing God. You are changing the natural course of where nature is intended, with either supplementation for longevity or in destroying our ecosystems.
Okay, Jurassic Park. What? Tell me why it's not possible now to do what they did in that movie and like bring back dinosaurs.
So they got it a very, very right in a lot of ways, right? And I think the biggest thing they did was they taught a lot of people all over the world in a very simplistic way, hey, there's this stuff called DNA, and we as humans can now edit it and make stuff, right? And so I think that opened, I think Jurassic Park, I think that Steven Spielberg and Michael Crichton, the late Michael Crichton's, I think that may have done as much for science as the moon landing, because
wow,
I think
bold.
because I think they put really hard, complicated science through an interesting lens, and they fed it to the world in a captivating dystopian movie. But guess what? You got to eat your vegetables with your dessert there, right? And that's cool because people left knowing that there's this thing called gene editing, right? And that I think that's a major inflection point of humanity that not everyone acknowledges. But to your question,
yeah,
so
is it possible?
So no, there is no dino DNA. So the oldest DNA we work with is about 1.4 million years old.
Okay.
And it's highly degraded. It's a steppe mammoth.
I love that. It's like it could be possible, but we just don't have access to.
We just don't have DNA.
The DNA.
Yeah.
Okay.
And but I'll answer it in two ways. So dinosaurs went extinct 65 million years ago, so we believe, and is mostly generally accepted by the world. And so there is no dino DNA that is known, right? I don't like to say impossible. So sure, maybe somewhere, somehow, something got preserved in a cave. Who knows? But I highly, highly doubt it because
it's all those T-Rexes. They're hiding somewhere in some perfectly secured place that has maintained.
They're
the
under
DNA.
These secret pyramid moon bases in Antarctica.
Right. Yeah.
Wherever,
perfectly preserved DNA sitting there.
Yeah. Perfect. Or just having coffee.
Yeah.
And so they with very small teacups. So with a weird, I don't know how they drink it. But anyway, assuming that they can make it and hold it.
Right.
I'm more worried about the physics of how they drink it than everything before that.
I love the way your mind works. Like we're literally, this is the best rabbit hole ever. Like how could T-Rex drink coffee? Like that's the
They
question.
really can't. I mean, I guess they could toss it, but I don't know. But anyway, so so there is no dino DNA. Amber is also in hot, wet places where it forms. Best DNA is cold, dry places from a storage vehicle perspective. Amber is really porous. You're not going to get any DNA from amber. And so that was interesting.
Amber is where their DNA would be hiding?
Well, that in the movie, like they found the mosquito in the amber.
Right.
And
okay,
then,
so that was a non-realistic part of it.
Yeah, that's not realistic. And then, but a lot of it was realistic. And so look, if we had dino DNA, I think you could definitely engineer one. And I think where synthetic biology is going, that's freaked people out. But I think not today, but I think at some point in the future, synthetic biology will get to the point where you can build full synthetic genomes. I don't know what level of simulation you can do in silica, so you don't have to create a bunch of things that don't make it they're not compatible with life. But I do think at some point we as humanity will have the ability to, have complete dominion over genomes and be able to engineer something that, resembles a dinosaur. I don't know on what event horizon that's at.
But you could engineer some like giant reptile that might, start to look dinosaur-like.
I'd probably start with the bird because dinosaurs were birds.
Right.
At least theropods were birds. It's unclear whether some of once again this goes back to this this will be controversial, but if you look at egg shapes and the basal tree of life and how things scaled, you kind of had two core body plans for dinosaurs. You had your theropods and your sauropods, right? And so you're like Brachiosaurus and like your kind of big, brontosaurus-y type things from the 90s, right? And then you had your stuff that was like Velociraptor and T-Rex. That so I think you had others, but you had in the non-marine reptile or ancient reptile category, you kind of had those as your kind of two bases. Most people will tell you that, or the vast majority of people will tell you that all went up from the Archosaur to the through the bird lineage, and reptiles diverted at the base of the tree. But if you look at egg shapes of theropods, they're much more reptilian in the egg clusters we found. They're much more so. It depends on, I guess. Maybe you wouldn't start with the bird. You'd start with whichever body plan you're trying to achieve.
I want to finish with kind of a lightning round that we always do on our show.
Cool.
What is behind you? Teeth?
Oh, no. This is a
direwolves.
No, this is no. It's not. Oh, well, that's a direwolf mural.
Okay.
Just because I haven't figured out what I want to put behind me yet, and so that we just put that up quickly. But that's a plesiosaur flipper.
Say it again.
It's a plesiosaur flipper, a large marine reptile. So Loch Ness Monster, like Nessie.
Are you bringing them back or to life?
No. That's a flipper. That's about as rock as it gets, though. No. So plesiosaurs, many people that believe in the Loch Ness Monster believe it was a surviving family of plesiosaurs.
Okay.
Why? I don't have it because the Loch Ness Monster. I have it because it's cool.
It is cool. Yeah. And are those direwolves that I'm seeing kind of different versions of the different heights?
There's a big direwolf mural behind me.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have 2 kids?
I do. I have 2 kids.
Okay. How old are they?
22 months and 5 months.
Okay. I was going to ask you what they tell other kids about their dad and what he does at work.
It's funny. I've had this.
Like that's not.
They don't know words yet. My son says like up, right? Like that's like. Yeah, he says up and down and anything else the Wiggles teaches him. But that's about that's what he knows. And so, but it's funny you say this because like he has dinosaur books. He plays with little dinosaurs. We've got some bones at the house, and so like I can't wait till he knows that I'm not an accountant. And I think that'll be fun.
Nothing against accountants.
No.
They're a critical part of our.
Yeah.
But you're saying you're excited. You're excited to share your.
I'm excited to share
your craft with them.
What we're working on, and it'll be interesting to get his perspective.
Yeah.
So,
what do you hope they tell people at school when people ask?
I hope they just avoided it, and they're like, "Oh, he's in biotech." Like I think that's what that'll be. I I say that a lot of times.
You don't want them to say like, "My dad's bringing back."
Well, I mean, it depends on what. It's their choice, right? Like it's like because I think that will lead to follow-on questions,
right?
And so it's really, I want them to say whatever makes them comfortable and happy.
I love that. Really basic question that is like I imagine lots of people want to ask you and maybe don't always. What is it like being a billionaire?
The same as I don't know. It's fine. I mean, I don't really talk about my finances publicly, but. I mean, I do the same thing now that I've done my entire career. I wear jeans and t-shirts and I, work on a laptop that students at, XYZ college does so. And
is that important? Is that important for kind of you to feel that way? Like there must be a psychological thing.
If I had $1 trillion or $2 and I had the ability to do what I'm doing now, I would do that because I'm very convicted about the work. And so, it's like you can make a lot of money doing a lot of things. And there's much easier ways to make money than like building software companies, space companies, and de-extinction companies. I'm just very I'm very passionate about the journey. It's not really the destination.
You have 2 dogs?
But I do not get asked that question often.
Yeah, no, it's
true.
I pride myself on unexpected questions. Your dogs are named Barbie and Ken?
Yes, they're mutts.
How did
we
they
did not engineer them?
And
by the way, we named them. They were named before the movie. So
before Barbie was cool again.
Yes, yeah. And so it's like people are like, oh, you love Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling's like, yeah, the movie was great, but just so you know, these dogs are old. Like you're not like this now it would be cool. When we did it, it was stupid. And so it's like that's But Barbie and Ken.
That's a very important thing.
Both rescues.
Yeah. Both. Why'd you decide on Barbie and Ken?
Well, Barbie, they're both these terrier mutt mixes. And Barbie is like scraggly. She doesn't speak English to my knowledge, or I think they only understand like 200 words, so she won't listen to the podcast most likely. But like they're she's cutely ugly, and like
I know dogs like that. That's
yeah,
really cool.
and so Barbie was. I think that was funny, and then she got a brother, and so his name Ken. Like that one was a layup.
I love that. I hate when fads you have to come out and say, I did this thing before it was
yeah,
cool.
no, I did. I say that. I'm like very clear. Like, no. Like, yeah. And that's not to take away from the movie. I just want to be factually accurate.
Do you have tattoos?
I have no tattoos.
I have no tattoos. And like the tattoo I really want, I came up with this. You want to talk about having kind of a curious mind. I interviewed TLC, the band, Chili and T-Boz, a long time ago. And at the end of the interview, they said, we like your voice. We're going to call you Big Sexy. And I was like, that's the end. That's all I need in my life. Like, I'm going to drop the mic. That's it.
That's a great, that is the pinnacle. Like, that's incredible.
That's it. So I came up with this idea. Yeah, I was like, what if could you do an audio wave file of a tattoo that was the wave file of them saying that? So I could just live with that every day of my life.
That's cool.
And before I got that tattoo, that became a thing. Like everyone started doing these like audio wave file tattoos that you could read with your phone and like listen to it. So I didn't get a tattoo because I was like, I don't want to do the thing. So I respect that Barbie and Ken were named before the movie.
Yeah. I've gone back and forth on a concept of a tattoo. I just never, I don't know.
You don't pull a trigger. Yeah. My wife has tattoos. She warns me. She's like, once you do one, you're going to do 7. And
that's what people say.
It'll become an obsession.
That's what people say. But it's like, I never thought of anything that I'm like, I don't know. It's just not on the priority. Like maybe if I had more time, I could think about it. But.
Yeah, you're busy. All right, 2 more questions. What is an obsession in your life that you have told no one about except like the people closest to you?
This is a guilt. You know how people like watch like, I'll give you 2. I can't believe I'm telling you this, but I really like, I don't watch a lot of TV, and when I do, I like to watch sci-fi, but I'm just busy. So mostly on like planes, right? But occasionally you need to turn your brain off. And so I will watch Bravo. So a guilty pleasure and obsession of mine is I will watch some of the Housewives stuff because I'm like, it's just so ridiculous and it's amazing. And so,
no judgment.
You can just
Zero judgment. I think it's great.
Turn your brain. And the other thing I'm obsessed with, or another weird obsession is like, did you ever go deep on the whole John McAfee storyline?
No.
You know who John McAfee is, right?
Yeah, but I never went deep.
Oh my gosh, he's insane. But then it's like, is he dead? Is he not? Like, it's crazier than other. He's insane. But you should watch. Like, there's an old school documentary on it and other stuff. But I went down. That was another thing. I always thought that guy was crazy. And then I was like, was he really the creator of Bitcoin? Like, there's all these open-ended questions around him. I think he's generally a pretty bad dude, but I do think it was still interesting, right? Like, you could still appreciate the craziness of it all.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, wait, before we move on from that, what's your favorite Real Housewives? Which one?
So I'm an old school kind of guy. So I'm Orange County.
Okay, it's a good one. Yeah, others will argue otherwise, but I'm there with you. Finally, what's an obsession in your life that scares you?
An obsession in my life that scares me. Oh, that's easy. The ocean. I love the ocean, but I have an amazing fear of it. And so I love the ocean, but I kind of want to just splash around in water I can see the bottom of.
You're afraid of the ocean?
Terrified of it. Why? There's a lot we don't know much about it. We really don't.
Yeah.
We know a lot about what is we know more about Mars or the moon than we do the ocean. So I'm obsessed with the ocean because of how valuable it is to the world and how incredible it is. And like when you're at the beach, how peaceful and connected you feel, and you have this massive moving thing that's alive in some way. It's interesting, but it's also terrifying. So.
But you're not afraid of like swimming. You're saying you're afraid of just the breadth of this thing that we have.
Yeah,
no
but
clue
it's
what's going on
like when
there.
you really think about it, like if you're on a boat or you get in deep, super deep water, like you really just don't know. Like it's a lot.
Yeah, the Loch Ness monster might be somewhere in there.
Yeah,
yeah. One day.
So.
Ben, this is you have a wild life, man, and it's been really fun learning about it. And best of luck in all this work that you're doing.
Thanks.
It's fascinating to follow it.
Thanks for having me. We'll keep you posted as like we make some interesting progress.